Lady Charmaine, and my guest today has a remarkable story of a comeback kid. From being a middle school dropout to 2 prison sentences to becoming a Broadway star, Tony Award nominee to starring in his own television show. And he's here today to talk about the original movie, Comeback Dad. Help me welcome Mr. Charles S. Dutton to the show. How you doing, Mr. Dutton?
I'm good, Lady Charmaine, and how are you?
I
Thanks
am.
for having me.
You are so welcome. Do you know your testimony is so remarkable and it's so encouraging? I had never really read your full story, and I think that your story needs to just be told to the world. And I wanted to know, after me reading your testimony, how did you move past allowing your past to define where you are and who and the person?
Well, I came to it really early, Lady Charmaine. I said, this is your life. This is your past. You won't be able to escape it. You should have thought about that before you did the things you did. That, and that's what I tell kids, that they're on the way to trouble. You get into trouble, it stays with you for the rest of your life, so don't do it. And if you do it, you're going to have to deal with it the rest of your life. So what I did was, I said, I think God got me out of the last time I went to prison. The last prison sentence was almost 8 years. The last time I went to prison, but that year I went to prison was the year that everyone in my generation got strung out on heroin, and I got plucked out of the neighborhood. I got arrested and convicted and sent away. So my prison sentence was in a way a blessing in disguise. Because everybody, you know what I'm saying? Everybody in my generation got wiped out.
Wow.
When I came home, almost 8, but, what it was, that it was like my going to prison at that particular time was like a blessing in disguise, because, the year that I went in was the same year that everybody in my generation got involved with heroin. Started shooting heroin or selling heroin, and it ruined the community, it ruined them, and so, but I know for a fact that had I not gone to prison, I would have been either one of a couple of things. I'd have been either dead, strung out on drugs, or doing life in prison. And so that thing of leaving, God taking me out of that world for nearly 7.5, 8 years was what saved my life. And so I always felt from that point on that, I wasn't in charge of this thing. I wasn't in charge of this destiny. This is all in God's hands. So for me, when I finally did get home and saw what the drug use and the drug epidemic had wrought upon the community, I said, I don't want any part of this, so I might as well do something different. But at the same time, it was apparent in my life that, it was a spiritual force guiding me to where I am today. Only thing I had to do was just go for the ride, remain positive, do the right thing, and respect people, and not fall back into my old attitude, the old philosophies about life, and just it's the only thing was, if I just followed the path that was before me, that I would be successful. And it was just so apparently clear that it was what God wanted me to do, that I had discovered what I was born to do while I'm on this planet. So, when I, do I get tired of talking about it sometimes? Sometimes, yeah, I do. But it's also, at the same time I get tired of talking about it, is the more times I say, well, I have to talk about it, because new generations of people come up who don't know about my life story. They see me in television or movies, and they have no idea that I, survived all those kind of things to achieve what I've achieved, going from jail to Yale, and I guess not many people do that. But so I don't tire of talking about it, but I also don't take the credit for it.
Mm-hmm.
I know it was under divine guidance.
Your story reminds me how all things work together for the good, that, like the Bible says, because like you said, your whole generation, was on heroin, and God blessed you. Although going to prison may not look like it was a glorified story, but it was giving God the glory. And I love the fact that when you had to go into solitary confinement and they gave you a book, and they put a book in the hand of a black man, and that book inspired you. I was so inspired. I went to an African-American college. I went to Grambling State, and I never forget when they was telling us, we were on the bus, I was doing a beauty pageant, and they were saying, basically the one thing that they wanted to do was keep away from putting books in the hand of a black man. And so when I read your story, I was like, wow, they gave a black man a book, and then look what happened. It was just a book of playwrights, and that inspired you. And then look where you are today. So I just really commend you on not just reading the book. You were so inspired. You were proactive in there, started a drama club. And now, like you said, you went from jail to Yale. So again, congratulations. I commend you on that. And now we're going to transition. I want to talk to you about your new movie entitled Come Back Dad, which is going to be airing on Saturday, July the 12th. So tell us about it and the character that you play.
Well, it's a really, really good film. I play a character by the name of Othel Babineau, and it's a character that has a lot of problems. He's a recovering alcoholic. He's been under depression, state of depression. He's a frustrated jazz musician. He's finally gotten his life together, done a turn on his own life, and gotten his life together. Now he's trying to patch up and mend the relationship with his daughter, who he hasn't seen in maybe 15 years. And but he understands later that his daughter herself is going through many issues because of the fact that she hadn't had a father in her life. So she's going through issues of self-worth and trustworthiness and not trusting men and thinking that she's not good enough and that a man will leave her just like her father left her. And so it's two people at a crossroads in life, but yet they're trying to mend the fence, and it's a lot of obstacles and hurdles that they both have to get over to come back together. And all this happens on the weekend of her wedding, and on her wedding day. And then she's hit with all of these many problems and things she has to endure to get her life back together. So it's a very, very, very riveting and emotional story, and it has a great cast. I mean, like Tatyana plays my daughter, and Lorretta Devine, the wonderful Lorretta Devine, plays my sister, and my character has been a failure in life. He really has been a failure in life. In other words, he came from a well-to-do family, a black middle-class family who has, all of his siblings are professionals, and he was the oldest kid, and much was expected from him. But he wound up being the artist in the family, and he went by the wayside through alcohol and booze and, and not necessarily drugs, but, he drank himself into oblivion. And when all of his siblings went on to achieve something. So, and you know how sometimes family can be more cruel than strangers. Family can treat you worse than strangers can sometimes. So, that's what he's been enduring, with certain members of his family. And so if I say that the movie had any message at all, which it has lots of messages, but I would say the message would be about finally letting go of anger, letting go of despair, letting go of anguish, letting go of bitterness, letting go of frustrations, and moving on and finding your way back to love. Love of your daughter, love of your father, love of your sisters and brothers, and that's always tough because sometimes there's a lot of bad scars left, and as long as as the scars aren't really the acts that cause the scars aren't really so deep as to be, perverse and of that things of that nature. But if it's because of human frailties, falling, being an alcoholic and not being able to get a job, human frailties and failures that a lot of human beings go through. When it's about that, the family members, they have to let go, and because their bitterness will only keep you down, won't serve you any good being bitter, So, but it's, and I say this not to be promoting the show, but for all my fans out there, listen, you guys know I've done a lot of work, and I've done a lot of films and a lot of television, and played a lot of characters, and been awarded with my work and all that stuff. But I would say this is one of the best films I've worked on, and it's certainly some of my best work as an actor.
And a lot of people can relate to that, because I know I grew up, my mom and dad was, they were divorced, and my dad was an alcoholic. That's how he lived his life, and you have to let the bitterness go, And I thank God for my dad. I met, and actually I used to talk to him on the phone all the time, but I actually met my dad face to face the first time when I was 15 years old, and then I seen him again when I was 25 when he passed away. But we communicated on the telephone, and no, he wasn't there. My dad even quit his job so he wouldn't have to pay child support. But I didn't let any of that bother me, because that stuff will make you sick. If you don't forgive them, for where they are. And I thank God for the decisions that my mother had to make in order for us to grow up and be healthy. So I don't blame my mom for anything, and I definitely don't blame my dad, And so I haven't seen the show, but you do have to forgive. You have to let all of that go. No, I didn't get mad at my dad because he decided not to pay child support. That's something he has to deal with between him and God. My mom, she did a great job. And so for anybody that's going to be watching the show, I really do pray that they really get something from this film, especially when you mentioned basically forgiveness. You got to be able to forgive and let it go.
Mm-hmm. Well, in lieu of what you just said, I think you're really going to enjoy it, or yourself. I think you're going to, I think it, it's going to, you're going to relive some memories, whether bitter or not bitter, but whether sad memories or whatever. But the final result. This is a movie that makes you laugh and cry, because although we're seemingly discussing topics that are depressing or down or downers, don't think that way about the movie for 1 second, because the movie is extremely hilarious. There are great funny moments in the picture. You're gonna laugh just as much as you cry in this film. So, but I'm really proud of it. I'm really proud of it. It's a real good movie, and very well written, and the story is very well crafted and complicated. The characters are really drawn out fully, and there's very few flaws in the script.
Okay, now what's next for you? Now we have Comeback Dad airing on Saturday. Are you working on any other projects that we can look forward to?
Well, I just finished working on a HBO picture on the life of Bessie Smith, called Bessie, the blues singer. That Queen Latifah is playing Bessie, and Monique is playing Ma Rainey, and I play Pa Rainey, Ma Rainey's husband. And they're still shooting in Atlanta, but I've wrapped my part in the film. And I'm a blues history buff, so I was really working with a young sister who's the director of this piece, named Dee Reeves, and she's going to be a great director. And I directed a film in Philadelphia last year called Must Be the Music, and that'll be out a little later this year. And so I'm more behind the camera, more producing and developing a mini-series on the life of the great Louis Armstrong. I've been really busy. I don't, when you don't see me often on film or television, just know that I turn down more stuff than I agree to do. Because if it's something that doesn't interest me, or if it's something I don't like, if the script is silly or childish or stupid or buffoonish, then I don't do it, But But when I see something that's moving emotionally, spiritually, then that's the kind of stuff. I've always prided myself on being able to work and watch myself 5-10 years later and not be embarrassed by it.
That's good.
So, yeah.
So you're not so desperate for work that you'll be embarrassed later on down the line. That's good.
Yeah, well, you try not to, because I never entered in this business because, as we talked about earlier, I led a whole different kind of life before becoming an actor. So I went into this as my first and foremost philosophy in becoming an actor was that I wanted to be an artist. First and foremost, an artist, not an actor, an artist. And I always surmise that, sometimes an entertainer will do anything. And an actor or actress will do most things. But an artist will only do those things that he or she feels advances civilization.
That is so good.
And so, well, thank you. But, and so it's, so I've tried to be, not out of ego or anything like that. I just, I was already a man when I came into this industry. I wasn't a young kid. I didn't get molded by the Hollywood philosophy or the Hollywood concepts. I was 30 years old when I went to Yale.
Wow.
So, which just goes to show you it's never too late. I was 30 years old when I went to Yale. So, and by the time I got to Hollywood, I wasn't going to let Hollywood change me. I already had my thoughts about life in the world, and already had a center of a spiritual base. So I wasn't going to let that change me into something to be something that I'm not, or play a game that I'm not, just to succeed and get ahead. I wasn't going to do that. I was going to be me and see the life in the world the way I've always saw it, and to try to do work that would be beneficial to humanity. And and I say that when I say big things like advancing civilization, I don't mean that in the those are big idealistic things. But you advance civilization just by volunteering your time at a homeless shelter or an after-school program, or teaching a kid next door to you or across the street, helping them with their homework. If their parents are not helping them with their homework, you know what I mean? Talking to this kid on the street corner, about the trouble that he or she may get into by hanging out with the wrong crowds. I mean, that's advancing civilization.
Wow.
You're saving somebody.
Now, with all that said, because I know you say you were an artist, and I thought that was great, just how you put that. For someone that's thinking about going into the entertainment industry with the experience that you've had on both sides of the coin, what advice would you give them?
Well, number one, particularly people that want to be actors, I usually, when someone says I want to be an actor, I want to get into acting, my first thing I ask them is, what was the last play that you've read? And most of the time, people tell me they've never read a play. And I find that amazing when people who want to be actors who don't read plays, or don't go to the theater. And I'm not talking about doing some little, play about some silly, stuff and that's not real theater. I'm talking about real legitimate theater where you get, all the stimulus of theater, from the lights and the costumes and the sets and the music and everything else. So, but you have to, you have to be serious about this. You listen. When I was at Yale, we had to treat being a theater major as seriously as people did medical school or law school. That's how much you devoted your time and energy and life into to being a skilled artist, but also realizing the fact that here's the reality, and it might be enough to scare some people off, but here's the reality. If you say you want to be an actor, just know that the Screen Actors Guild, the Actors Union, there's always 85% unemployment. Always. And it's been that way for 80 years. Wow. 85% unemployment. So only 15% of the people actually earn a living at this. 15%. And if you want to be a director in the Directors Guild of America, the DGA, the Union for Directors, 85% unemployment all the time. In the Writers Guild, the WGA, 85% unemployment, 15% of the people work. That's what you're really up against. And every year, there's a new influx of talent, actors and actresses coming out of the theater schools, people thinking they can act, people wanting to act, every athlete, every rapper, every singer, every reality show person, everybody can be, I'm an actor, I want to be an actor, Mm-hmm. And that line is so long. The line is so long. The people that jump ahead of the line are usually have started their careers in something else, maybe music or whatever. They already have a fan base. They already have a persona. So it's a reason it's called show business. It should be called business show because a lot of times it's about the business first. You know what I'm saying? And so, if people want to do this, they have to be serious about it. Don't just be another fly-by-night wannabe actor or an actress, without studying it, because it is a craft to acting. It is a craft. You might have people that have been successful actors who never studied a day in their life, and they might say, "Oh, ain't nothing to it. You just stand up there and say the lines." Now, there's a little bit of truth to that, but there's some of the exceptions to the rule, the lucky ones. And believe it, all of those ones already had a persona. They already had people that were going to spend money to buy tickets. And that's the only reason that Hollywood gave them those chances, because they already had a fan base in another field.
Okay.
But still within the entertainment business. But not necessarily in the acting profession. But they say, okay, this person sells records. We're going to put him in a movie because he's got fans. Now, this person just came out of acting school and is a real good actor and talent, but don't nobody know him. So nobody's going to go see him. So we can't make any money.
Right. Okay.
So be serious about it. And study it. Read plays. Read the plays of August Wilson. The great black playwright. The most prolific American playwright ever. The most prolific American playwright ever. Wrote 10 plays in 20 years, all depicting the African-American experience in the 20th century. And no American playwright has written that many plays.
Wow. 10
plays. That's a play every other year. And 7 of those plays have gone to Broadway and been nominated for awards after awards, So, you got to read, because that's where you learn about characterization. That's where you learn how to get into a character, by reading plays, by doing scenes from plays. You can't do a scene from a movie. I've had people show me scenes from The Godfather, and I said, "Now, what the heck am I supposed to take out of that from you doing a scene from The Godfather?" You're not Sonny Corleone. You're copying something. You're mimicking something. That's not acting. You're simply imitating somebody. No, read a play. It's about language, and it's about characterization. You've got to get into it. You just can't. Don't look at it as everybody can do it. There's nothing special left in the world. And unlike, and it's going to sound a little elitist, but I don't care. Unlike music or dance or whatever, listen, you can attest to this, I know. You find me a great singer, I can show you somebody that's in a church somewhere who can out-sing them, blow them off a stage, but they'll never get a break. You know what I mean? You show me a great dancer, I can go up in Harlem somewhere or in the hood somewhere and show you a little kid who can kick them legs up just as high and leap just as high, but they may never get a break.
True.
But the acting, or you show me a musician, that's great. And there's somebody that stands on the street corner blowing a horn, but will never get a break, So, but the acting profession is a little different. And what I mean by that is there's a wide, wide, wide river of actors and actresses, but there's only a tiny pond of real talent. And what I mean by that is not who's the better actor, who's more handsome, who's the matinee idol, or who's a character actor, who's a Denzel type, and who's a Charles Dutton type, or a Sam Jackson type, or whatever. I don't mean that. I mean who's more in that tiny pond. That tiny pond represents who's more conscientious about their work. That what they do is that they leave an ounce of their internal essence on the stage floor or on the film floor every scene. Mm-hmm. They don't phone it in. They don't half step it. They go all the way out each and every time, and they're not afraid to embarrass themselves or to be judged. They just do the work to the absolute fullest every day. A lot of actors are lazy. A lot of actors just give you what they want. A lot of actors pose, and as long as I'm looking handsome or as long as I'm looking pretty and fine, that's not what it's about. It's about becoming the other person. It's about becoming the person that you're playing, and that person may not be handsome that you're playing. Mm. You can be a handsome person, but that person that you're playing may not be. For instance, if you're doing a play and you wake up one night, you wake up the next day and you've been out partying all night, now you got a hangover and you're not feeling too good, and you got to do the play that night, but you're begrudging that I got to do this play and I'm all sick. Guess what? The character ain't sick. The character feels great. The character has a zest for life. The character wants to get out there and show himself that night. The character wants the world to see him. So, it's like, ain't no excuses. You gotta, you're the one that's sick, not the character.
That is good.
So, it's to be treated respectfully. The craft and art of acting is to be treated respectfully. To be a great trumpet player, a pianist, a saxophonist, a bassist, that it takes skill, it takes practice, it takes drive, it takes know-how and talent and luck and being blessed. And sometimes being blessed is through the work. When you work at something hard enough, God gives you, you could be limited, but when you work at it, God will say, you know what, okay, you working at something, I'm going to send you over the top. I'm going to help you out a little bit, I'm going to put some more dexterity in those fingers so you can play that guitar better. I'm going to make your lips stronger so you can blow that horn better. I'm going to make your chest have more wind, your lungs have more wind, so you can get those notes out in that on that saxophone. I'm going to give your eyesight better so you can see those piano keys. It's all kinds of things if you're working at it. And if you think of any artist, any great artist who's achieved anything and become reputable, you think Ray Charles and Stevie Wonder people with handicaps, being blind, still didn't work hard. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, they worked harder than the people who had vision and could see. They didn't take it just, I have a gift, so it's going to come easy. Yeah, they were given a natural gift, but believe it, they had to earn it. It's and that's what and God wants you to do that. He doesn't want to just give you a gift and then you flaunt it and kick it around and do it every time you feel like showing off. God wants you to work at that gift and be worthy of it. So being an artist is a big deal. Being an artist and also being an artist. I'm from the old school, so I admit it. So I've drawn my line of demarcation in the sand a long time ago, as far as old school versus new school. And I don't mean that in a competitive way of putting another generation down. I mean in the sense that where I came up and where I came from, my mentors were artists, activists. I looked up to people like Ruby Dee and Ozzie Davis and Harry Belafonte, people who paved the way for me. Mm. You know, those people who made sacrifices so I could be an artist. You know, and those people that made sacrifices nearly lost their careers.
True. Because
they were activists. You know, Ruby Dee and Ruby Dee and Ozzie Davis didn't work for nearly 25 years because of their activism. And that's why I have to give a lot of props to Spike Lee. It was Spike Lee who regenerated Ruby Dee's and Ozzie Davis's career. You know, the white Hollywood studios wasn't grabbing them anymore, you know, because of their activism. You know, Harry Belafonte wasn't getting jobs anymore, you know, because of his activism. And those are the kind of people that I respect. You know what I mean? They had a chance to, if you want to say sell out, I'm not necessarily saying that, but they had a chance to do that 50 years ago. You know? No. I mean, you know, just going off just a little side note, and then I'll finish with that. I mean, listen, Martin Luther King they tried to buy Martin Luther King off many times. Many times. These United States government offered him millions and millions of dollars to just shut up and preach and not be Martin Luther King. You know, but they couldn't buy him off. They couldn't distort him off. You know, they couldn't scare him off. They couldn't threaten him off. So you know what the end result of that was.
Yeah. I have a
question. Those are the people that I cherish. Yes.
Now, I have a question for you. You may have done it already. Have you ever opened up or considered opening up an actor school for artists?
Yeah, but it would only have to be for artists, Lady Charmaine. It would only have to be for artists because I won't have patience anywhere else. You know, for anybody else. And I'll be the first to confess and admit that I wouldn't have the patience to teach it if you're not an artist. You know what I mean? I mean, I think I'd be wasting my time because everybody in my association coming up, you know, that God put in my path, coming up to teach me and direct me to where I ultimately went. All of those people were artists. Every one of them. Unknown to the rest of the world, but artists. You know, from when I got from the time I got out of the prison and I went to undergraduate school in Baltimore, Maryland at Towson State University. When I went to the registration line, when I got up to the lady, the theater department was closed. They told me I had to come back next semester. I had just got out of prison 2 days before that, and I told the lady, I can't wait till next semester. You got to let me in this program now. I just got out of the penitentiary. She leaned back in that chair like, oh my God, you know, and told me to go to the theater department and talk to the chairman of the school. And I went to the theater department. And just to show you how the joys of God's work, I went to the theater department, a guy just getting out of prison after almost nearly 8 years, being told that the theater department was closed, and then if you want to get in, you got to go talk to the chairman of the theater department. I went in, I told this guy my story. I said, man, listen, I just got out of the penitentiary on Wednesday. This was on a Friday. I said, listen, I am supposed to do this. I'm supposed to get into acting. I'm supposed to be in the theater. I don't know how to do anything else. And I showed him my parole papers and all of that stuff. And the guy looked at me and he stared at me for a few minutes, which seemed to be an eternity. Lady Charmaine, he stared at me for a long time. But later on, I surmised what the guy was looking for. As he heard me talk, he was trying to see if there was any negative karma around me. You know what I mean? If I would see, I'm standing up here giving him a good rap, or were there any BS around me? Did I still have the negativity? If he gave me a shot at going to school, would I actually show up? Would I attend classes? Would I be an artist? Or would I just be some wannabe actor? And after a couple of minutes, when I guess he satisfied himself that I was serious and for real, this is what the guy did, and this is a true story. It's going to be in my book. It'll be documented fact. He pulled out his ledger, his book, of all the incoming students, and he scratched somebody's name off and wrote my name above theirs. True story. And wrote my name above theirs. Now, I don't know who that person was, whether it was a male or female, whether that person was rich or poor. I hope they went on to have a prosperous life and a successful life. But I really do. But he scratched somebody's name off and wrote mine above theirs and accepted me into the program. And when I got to Yale, when I applied to Yale, the first time I applied, they didn't accept me. They put me on the alternate list. Mm. And that meant that, they wanted, and so what I found out that they wanted to see later, what I surmised was that they wanted to find out how bad I wanted it. And I called that school every day for almost 2 months to see if there was any opening. And guess what? Every time I called, the registrar would tell the chairman of the school that I called again. I called twice that day, or that he called this day. I mean, and they had a record of every time I called.
Wow.
But guess what? It wasn't me doing it. It was a voice that told me. A voice told me to call there. A voice, a strong voice. I mean, a really, really powerful moment that call the registrar and keep calling. And when I called so many times, it was funny. The woman got to know my ring. I'd call and she said, "No, Charles, there's no openings." And she picked up the phone and said, "No, there's no openings."
No, that's good.
And one of those, and in one of those calls, after many, many calls, she said, "Congratulations, you've been accepted." And I found out later that I was accepted all along. They just wanted to see how bad I wanted it.
Are you
and had
serious?
I never made those calls, I'm serious. Had I never made those calls, I wouldn't have been accepted. Because, now check this out, Lady Charmaine. They didn't know what they were getting. Yeah, they knew I was still on parole. I had to transfer my parole from the state of Maryland to the state of Connecticut. So they didn't know what they were getting. They didn't know if they were getting a guy who was going to be in class at 9 a.m. and sticking up the local New Haven, Connecticut bank at 12.
Wow.
So they wanted to see what I was made of and see how serious I was. And had I never made those calls, had I not listened to their voice, we wouldn't be talking now. Because I never got into Yale. I never went to Yale.
That is amazing.
I was just. It was a journey. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just thinking about your journey and how, number one, they scratched the name off for somebody to put you in that space. Look what God to do for you, and your persistence, and it was already yours. You were just going for something that was already yours. And especially in church, when our pastor gets to preaching, certain things are already yours, but how bad do you want it? It's yours, but are you going to go after it? And you kept going after it. Now what would have happened if you would have stopped, if you would have just called twice? I wonder would
you know what, had I stopped, I would have picked up the phone and called one of my old buddies, and said, "Man, what you doing?" Went on the street corner and hung out. Because the thing about it, at that moment, I didn't know how to go about being a professional actor. I didn't know about getting into Yale. Yale was so out of the realm of my existence. My thinking, I thought only white folks went to Yale. And not only that, only smart white folks, intelligent white folks went to Yale. I was surprised when I saw so many blacks there when I got there.
Wow.
It was like intimidating. I was like saying, "Man, I'm from the projects." How the heck I get into Yale? So, but I would have been, I don't make any bones about it. There was nothing special about me. I was from the same neighborhood and the same housing project as from all of my buddies. And I went through the same things. I had my hungry nights and poor days just like they did. I just so happened to be blessed and not necessarily, I don't want to use the word chosen, not at all. But once I found my calling, or once my gift was presented to me, I seized upon it. And a lot of times we get presented our gifts and our callings and we don't seize upon it. We look for it to come back around a second time. Well, let me make this money and then I'm gonna straighten myself out once I make some money and go legit. Let me hustle a little more, then once I buy that car wash and them 3 fried chicken joints, I'm gonna go legit, then God gonna bless me. it don't work that way. Just don't work that way. You know, when you see a gift and you see a calling, that's what you're supposed to seize upon and do that. You know, and the rewards are great. The rewards are much greater in that way because you're dealing in faith and you're dealing in sacredness. You know, so the rewards are far greater.
Well, I just want to thank you so much for sharing your testimony. Like I said, when I read it, I was like, oh my goodness, his story is so inspiring. And I am so glad that you were able to share your story. And I can't wait for your book to come out because that book is going to inspire somebody. And you just encourage myself, and I know not only myself, but the listening audience to keep on knocking, keep on going. Don't let nothing stop you. If you know what your destiny is, go after it. And you just prove that 100%. What God has for you, it is for you, and to stick with it. Thank you so much for being on the show. And I want to remind everyone the reason why he's on the show, because he's going to be in the original Up television movie entitled Comeback Dad, airing this Saturday, July 12th. Make sure you check it out on the Up Network. Again, thank you so much, Charles, for coming on the show.
Well, thanks for having me, Lady Charmaine. I really appreciate it. Great talking to you, and can't wait for another project to come up where I can, arrange to speak with you again.
Please, I look forward to having you back.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.